Good morning, everybody. My name is author and entrepreneur Brandy M. Miller, and this is the first in a series of some basically webinars, I guess, that I'm doing. And this one is called The Zero to Hero. It's moving from powerless, from helpless and hopeless, to moving with power, purpose, and passion into your ability to transform the world. Because yes, you were meant to transform this world. That's why you're here. That's what you were born to do. So I'm going to help you do that. And let's get started, okay? So, is this for you? If you're struggling to overcome negative thoughts, feelings, beliefs, and behaviors, this is probably a place for you. If you're feeling frustrated by your current situation, but powerless to change it. If you're feeling defeated by your past failures and hopeless about your future, this is probably for you. If you're sick of feeling helpless and you're ready to make a change, but you don't know where to begin, this one's probably for you. If you're tired of trying program after program, wasting thousands of dollars and countless hours on gimmicks that don't produce lasting change, and you're ready for something different, this is for you. If you're overwhelmed by the sheer number of solutions presented to you and you would like an easy way to cut through the noise so you can find the most effective and efficient way forward, you're in the right place. Okay. So before I get started talking about what we're going to do, I want to introduce you to a little bit about me. Just enough so that you'll get that I understand where you're at. Okay? How did I move from where you are to where I am? Well, it wasn't easy. I grew up in an abusive home, in poverty, and I felt powerless at many points to change that. To change my life. I felt defeated because my past efforts to change things didn't work, and I started feeling hopeless that anything ever would. I was sick of feeling helpless, but I had no idea where to begin changing things for the better. I tried every program that came along, but I couldn't seem to make any of them work for me. And I was overwhelmed by all the advice being thrown at me, and believe me, there was plenty of it, and the different solutions to my problems, and I wasn't sure how to know which to listen to and which I could safely ignore. There was no good way to test the programs before I invested in them. I mean, it was almost a you have to invest in order to be able to test scenario. So I wandered around for a good deal, and what changed, what really broke me out from where I was to get where I am now, was my life fell apart. Okay? That is the truth. My life at 27 was a hot mess, and I'm not proud of that fact, but it was. I was trying to do so much to please everybody else around me that I had no idea who I was or what I wanted or what mattered. I was just following, I would blow like a leaf in the wind. I was blowing around. I was trying to fit everybody's expectations and make them all happy, and nobody was happy, including me. Okay? I hated my life. I mean, I was doing okay in my career. I was making decent money for the first time in my life. My career was stable and steady. My coworkers were decent to work with, but overall, I hated my life. It just felt empty. It felt like there was something missing, and I didn't know what it was. My marriage was failing. I thought I'd done everything to protect it. I'd followed every piece of advice, well, except the pieces of advice that would have served me the best. But I was listening to all these people around me who incidentally were divorced and who came from marriages that weren't working either. I thought they knew better, so I was following their advice, and my marriage was a disaster. my son, my beautiful, beautiful baby boy, at 8 years of age, he looks me in the eye in my room. We've just gotten into a fight. I don't even remember what the fight was about. It doesn't matter. He's beautiful, and he's looking me straight in the eyes, and he's not only telling me that he's going to kill himself, he's telling me how he's going to do it, that he'll hang himself with his dad's belt. And when I tell him, well, I'll hide all the belts then, he tells me he's going to throw himself in front of a car and get himself killed that way. And I think, oh my God, this child not only has a plan worked out in his mind, but he has a backup plan in case that first plan doesn't work. This kid's serious, and I need to take him seriously. And I was out of control, and so was my life. I was so busy trying to control it that it had gotten way out of control. And I finally realized the problem came down to me trying to make everybody else happy and not knowing how to make myself happy. And I needed to figure that out. I needed to figure out who I was and what I wanted out of life. And so where did that journey take me? Well, here's how I worked out after I found and embraced the truth. Now, I'm not saying that this journey was ever easy or that it all came together at once, because it didn't. And I'm still on this journey. You're going to be on this journey for a lifetime too. Don't think it's going to snap into place and everything's going to be fixed and you're going to get to walk away happier, healthier, and better. Happier, healthier comes, but the first thing that comes is your life is going to fall apart. Okay? It is. Because your life is built on crap. And nothing good can be built in your life until all that crap gets out of your life first. So here's what I learned about myself on the way of this journey, though. Nobody, including me, liked all the people that I'd been pretending to be. It was making me miserable. It was making them miserable. I was the most unforgiving person you could possibly meet. I held everybody else to standards that were impossible, and I held myself up to higher standards. I told myself that, but that actually wasn't true. That was one of those lessons I had to learn. I was lovable. Who I was lovable. But all these people I was pretending to be, those people weren't lovable. They weren't even real. I didn't need to follow the world's plan for my life. I wasn't built to follow that role. This is the truth about anybody who is born to be a leader. You are never going to fit in. You are never going to blend in. You were not meant to do those things because a leader has to be able to stand out in a crowd. If you cannot stand out in a crowd, you cannot be found by those who need a leader. That's the simple truth. And you're going to meet bullies along the way at a far faster rate than anybody else. Because the truth is, you have to learn to stand up to those bullies so that when the time comes, you are ready to stand up for those who cannot stand up for themselves. That's why you're put through all of that, so that you'll have the strength necessary to lead people and to protect your followers. Okay? Money, position, and power are no substitute for time, attention, and love. The problem with my son, I was giving him everything except what he needed. I had accepted a position that gave me power, and it made me feel good about myself. I was making plenty of money, and that made me feel good about myself. But those things were no substitute for the time, attention, and love that my son needed from me. The more you try to control where you're going, the more out of control you become. Now, I was raised in a household where nothing was predictable. You couldn't rely on anybody, anything. And as a result, I became really fear-bound. And out of my fear, I tried to control everything. I tried to dictate the terms and conditions under which everything operated. And the more that I tried to control the uncontrollable, which was everything except me, the more out of control I became. I was like a plate spinner, juggling everything every which way and failing miserably. And then I would feel like a failure and I would beat myself up for it and I would become more afraid and I would try harder to control things. And that would just spin more out of control. I had to let go. I had to let go of control. The only thing I have control over is me. That's it. And that's your reality too. You can't control anything, just you. Okay, but you're far more realized. One of the things that I did learn was that I am far more powerful than I realized. Just being me, I'm powerful. I have the power to transform the world, and so do you. And it's time to step into and claim your power because the world needs us both. Here's the reality. I used to think you had to be famous, you had to be a celebrity, people all over the world had to know your name in order for you to make a difference. And then I realized that there was only one man who accepted Hitler's application to the art school in Paris and decided to reject Hitler from art school in Paris. That's right. One man rejected Hitler from art school in Paris. And because of that rejection, Hitler went on to form the Nazi Party and to become, the leader of the Third Reich. If he'd been accepted into art school, our world would have been a totally different place. He wouldn't have become the leader of the Third Reich. He would have been in Paris studying art, making terrible art, but, that's okay. The world would have been better off for him making art. And if that one person's decision could transform the world and be the difference between 6 million Jews dying and 6 million Jews living, then I only had to change one life to change the entire course of human history. And that's the truth. All you have to do is impact one life for the better to change the entire course of human history for the better. That's it. Now, it doesn't sound like much, but that's the truth about it. Everything matters. What you do matters. What you don't do matters. Your life does matter. Way more than you know. Now, let's get started with a story, because that's how I roll. I am the Story Queen, Chief Executive Storyteller for 40daywriter.com. All right, how you react to being called a zero tells you a lot about the story that you tell yourself about what zero means. When I was first introduced to zero by my teachers, I was told zero was nothing, emptiness. It was a placeholder. It wasn't that important. Now, it took me 34 years to re-examine that story and to realize that my teachers were wrong. My teachers told me what they knew, but what they knew was wrong. See, zero isn't nothing. Zero is the perfection of possibility. All things, both negative and positive, come out of zero. Zero is the fusion of the negative and the positive. In fact, these things are so closely united inside of zero that they literally cannot be divided. You can't divide zero. You can't break it up into smaller chunks or smaller pieces. You can't even see what's in zero because it's all so powerful and it's hidden from sight. It's so important. This is how important zero is. Without zero, almost every bit of our technology would not be possible. Half of algebra would not be possible. All of the maths that are higher than algebra, calculus, trigonometry, not possible without zero. Zero makes all things possible. So, zero doesn't change no matter what story I tell about it. Zero is zero. It stays the same. But how I feel and what I think and how I behave in response to being called a zero relies entirely on what I believe zero's story is. See, if I believe that zero is nothing, emptiness, just a placeholder, then when somebody calls me a zero, that hurts. I'm not nothing. I'm not nobody. I'm not just a placeholder. Don't call me that. But if I believe that zero is the perfection of possibility, that zero is important, and that without zero, so much of great things would not be possible, then you call me a zero, and I'm going to be like, heck yeah, I'm a zero. I am a zero. Thank you so much for recognizing that. And I'm going to go on about my day happy, content, affirmed. See, it's not what other people do to you that matters. It is how you interpret and feel about what they've done that determines the story that you tell yourself about those events. So, let's go on. Here's why your other programs and solutions didn't work. It's not that they were bad programs and solutions, okay? They may very well have been powerful. They just weren't compatible with your operating system, okay? Your brain does have an operating system, and that operating system dictates the changes that it will accept, the things that it will believe, and the things that it won't. Try to change your belief without changing the underlying operating system results in system failure, okay? The brain simply kicks it out and rejects it. It won't allow it to be installed. Your brain is like a highly advanced computer. From conception to birth, the base system is being built, and a rudimentary operating system based on chemical influence is being installed. Whatever your mother ingests, whatever you experience in the womb, that's your rudimentary operating system. That's your best guess at how the world's supposed to work and how you're supposed to respond to it. Birth to age 6, your parts, the brain's parts, are upgraded and added to. The operating system is expanded based on new information and input, and it's adapted to the environment in which you live. If you're born into a situation of scarcity and fear, well, scarcity and fear are going to become a large part of your operating system. You're going to view the world as being limited in resources, and you're going to view the world as being hostile. And so you're going to approach life from those 2 points, okay? From 7 to 22, the memory is increased, okay? The brain continues to expand so that it can hold more memory. The hard drive is upgraded so that you can retain more memories. Unneeded files are deleted. So all those things that the brain deems not important, it actually trims from you by trimming the connections to those things. And the operating system function testing is completed. See, up until age 22, your brain has been testing its operating system as it goes based on new input and new experiences. If it finds new information that challenges the old, the brain evaluates it and says, how does this relate to what I already know? And if it doesn't like what it finds, it will, when you're young, it just accepts it, okay? It expands what it believes to include the new information. But by the time you get to about age 22, instead of expanding to include the new information, it compares the new information with the old information. And if the new information doesn't match the old information, it kicks it out. It says, nope, this isn't true. I reject this, okay? From 23 until death, your systems are maintained. The operating system runs in the background and makes all your decisions for you. It determines what programs you're allowed to install and which gets rejected. Now imagine this. Some of those operating system parameters, the rules and the logic by which your operating system operates, were determined at age 5. I want you to think about that, because that means a 5-year-old child has been making your decisions for you pretty much since the day that happened. You didn't know that, so you've never gone back to that 5-year-old child and figured out from a perspective of where you are now what was wrong with that information. See, that 5-year-old child didn't know a lot of things. They didn't know and understand how people think, operate, or believe. That child simply accepted what happened to them and ran with it based on how they felt about it and what they interpreted out of it. And they've been making decisions for you ever since then. Some of you have been operating, your heart got broken at age 12. And you have been literally letting that 12-year-old child make relationships decisions for you based on that one experience, because it was so painful to you that it embedded itself in your brain. And you've never gone back, and you've never talked to that 12-year-old child, and you've never helped that 12-year-old child reprocess the information, reprocess the situation. And so that 12-year-old child has been making some really crappy decisions for you, which is why your life is out the way it is. And the only way to fix this is to go back and find that story and confront that 12-year-old child and re-examine what happened so that you can tell that 12-year-old child, it's okay, it wasn't you. Or maybe it was you, but it's okay that you made that mistake. You don't have to carry that mistake with you for the rest of your life. You can just learn from it. It's okay. We can let go and we can move on. So installing a program that isn't compatible without changing the operating system to accept it first results in system failure. The brain just won't accept it. Okay? Your brain is wired for stories. Literally. Everything about it is wired for stories. Now I'm going to give you a series of numbers. And I want you to do your best to remember these numbers, but without writing them down. And there will be a quiz later and a prize to go with it. All right. So here are the numbers I want you to remember. 9, 11, 1, 6, 2, 16. Don't write them down. And if you can remember them in a few minutes and recite them both backwards and forwards, there will be a prize. See, the brain relies on stories to help it remember information and to determine the correct interpretation of events. Okay. Emotion, sensation, and connection. This is how memories are stored, and why you find it so difficult to remember random information and facts. Emotion and sensation. Strong emotions such as anger, fear, love, and joy, and strong sensations such as pain or pleasure are immediately processed because the brain sees them as essential to survival. If you feel it, it must be important, the brain says, and I need to remember those things that hurt me so I can avoid them, and remember those things that feel good so I can do more of them. These memories become hard-coded into the brain and form part of the base operating system. Connection. All the other information and experiences you receive are filed based on their connection to those important experiences and the knowledge you already possess. If the brain can't find a connection between the pieces of information you receive and the information it already knows, it tosses that stuff into a junk drawer for later filing. And the filing time is when you are dreaming, or when you're in the shower and you're not really doing anything, or you're sitting on the toilet and you're not really engaged. You're just, letting your mind wander. That's when the brain does its filing. And that's when it can go back and try to connect the information you've just received with the information it already has in that junk drawer. And once it finds a connection, that's when you get an inspiration. Aha! I see the connection between those things. Ding! And now you don't have any trouble recalling that information because it's connected to something. And as long as you can remember the connection, you can remember the information. The brain sees any information that contradicts the basic operating system as a threat to your survival and rejects it automatically. The brain takes that information and throws it into the waste bin. Literally. It won't hold on to it. It just says, nope, this is not valid. This is not true. So that's why you have to go back and alter the memory. Okay, here's a pop quiz and a story. Like I said, stories are how I roll, so expect more of them. What were those numbers again? Do you remember? The numbers I gave you earlier, there were 6 of them. I'll give you about 2 minutes to see if you can remember them. Remember, you're supposed to recite them backwards and forwards. Let's see if you can. Okay. They're just 6 numbers. Not that many numbers, just 6 of them. But until those numbers have meaning to you by connection to something you already know, or are firmly attached through emotion and sensation, your brain has to rifle through the junk drawer to find those numbers, which is why a few hours from now, you'll be able to remember those numbers, or at least a couple of them, if it mattered to you at all. Okay. The story behind those 6 numbers. Now I'm going to tell you the story behind those 6 numbers. And this will help you remember. 9/11/01. I was dropping my son off at kindergarten. I was in my car. My husband and I had just pulled to the end of the driveway after dropping him off. My husband reaches down to turn on the radio, and we hear the news about a plane. And the plane has flown into one of the Twin Towers in New York City. And my husband and I look at each other. I mean, this is huge. People are going to be hurt. People are going to die. And at first we think it's just, careless flight. Somebody wasn't paying attention. Somebody wasn't doing their job right. And then the second one comes. And I know that this is not that story. The first story that I was telling myself is not accurate. This is actually an active attack. And of course, as the day goes on, my theory proves correct. It was an active attack. And that changes the entire structure of America and how she sees herself. She saw herself as impenetrable, like nothing could come hurt her from the outside, that she was bigger and stronger than anything. And after that day, she became afraid, and she started making some really crappy choices because she was afraid. And she started allowing things to happen that should never have been allowed to happen because fear does that. See, 9/11/01, everything changed for America. And the second set of numbers, 6/2/16, see, that was the day this webinar was supposed to take place, but nobody showed up. And I waited to record it because I thought, well, it's not that big a deal because nobody showed up. But what I didn't realize was that it was not the day that it changed for everybody else. It was the day it changed for me. And it was the day I put these slides together. It was the day that I determined what I was going to tell you about confidence and about how to move into confidence from your position of feeling like you don't have anything to offer. So 6/2/16 became really important. It's actually a life-changing day for me, and it will be for you an important day too, because that's the day that I started the process of working to change your life. So now that I've told you those 2 stories, we'll test again to see if you can remember those numbers and the correlation. See, change is the common link between 9/11/01 and 6/2/16. 15 years after 9/11 is when your life is going to have changed forever. All right? This is why the stories in your brain matter. They're the key to accessing the operating system and altering it so you can accept new programs and so you can remember new information that might help you make that next big leap between where you are and where you want to be. And I'll tell you the negative emotions. Okay, this is an important thing. You are dealing with a ton of negative emotions. Okay, most people work very hard to avoid experiencing these emotions because they see them as negative. Anger, depression, disappointment, discouragement, doubt, envy, fear, greed, guilt, humiliation, laziness, lust, pride, regret, sorrow, shame, vanity, worry, and all of that. But you don't need to work to avoid them. And I'll tell you why with some stories. Okay, so let's look at those negative emotions, just a few of them. We don't have time for all of them, but just a few of them. And let's look at the real story behind those emotions. Anger. Anger is a whistleblower. Anger speaks up whenever you spot injustice. Somebody did something that wasn't right. You spotted it and you become angry. Anger ignored becomes internalized. You turn it in on yourself. You blame yourself for not doing something about what you know you should have done something about. And you beat yourself up for it. And you beat yourself up for it. And you beat yourself up for it. And then you become no good, right? It destroys your own life. Or you bottle it up. And you bottle it up, and you bottle it up, and you bottle it up until you can't contain it anymore, and it explodes all over you and everybody else around you. And it usually catches the innocent in your path. Let's say you bottle up how you feel at work all day long. Maybe you've got a boss who's a really terrible boss, and they heap abuse on you, and you don't feel that there's anything you can do about it. You feel powerless to change things. So you take this abuse all day long, and you know you can't verbalize, or you feel like you can't verbalize how this is making you feel. And you feel like there's nothing you can do to change about it. So you just bottle it up, and you bottle it up, and you bottle it up. And then you get home, and your spouse does something innocent, or your kid spills a cup of juice. Now, none of those things really hurt you, but they become the focal point for all that anger, and it just blows out of you onto those people. Now, they don't know why you're reacting the way that you do. They don't realize you've been choking back all this anger all day long. All they know is they're getting the brunt force of it at home. It's dangerous to yourself. Anger becomes toxic if you keep it inside. It eats away at you. And it becomes dangerous to others. That explosive behavior, that is harmful to them. That hurts them. And it's not fair to them. But you can change this. Dealing with anger appropriately. Listen to what anger is telling you. This is unfair. This is unjust. Acknowledge it. Okay? Seek the source of the problem. We're not talking about blaming the boss. Okay? We're talking about seek the real source. What's really going on that is causing you to become angry? Where do you feel there's an injustice? And then resolve to find a solution. If there's a problem and it's worth complaining about, it's worth solving. Apply the solution you figured out. And then share that solution with others so they don't become trapped. Now, that does two things. If you can solve your problem, you empower yourself to see yourself as a problem solver. And if you can share that solution with others, you then become even more powerful because you're a helper. You're a problem solver for others. And that makes you more valuable in the workplace and in life. Depression. Let's talk about depression. Lots of Americans on pills for depression. They're all trying to avoid it. And you know what those pills do? They don't actually make depression go away. They make you unable to feel anything. Every emotion becomes dead in order to avoid feeling depression, which is really sad because depression's not a bad guy. Depression is a pathfinder. Depression is there to call you to your purpose. Depression is there to tell you you have a purpose and you need to find it. Depression ignored becomes despair. You decide there's no purpose to life and you quit trying to find one. You just sort of live, but you're not really living. Depression is poison for you and your relationships. There is nothing worse than living with depression, except being the person who lives with the person who's depressed all the time. Yeah, that's not fun. That depression makes the person who loves you feel like their love is just not reaching you. It's like watching somebody you love die of cancer and there's nothing you can do to help them or to bring them back to life because you don't have the keys that are needed. See, that depressed person needs to find their purpose and they're not finding it because they don't know it exists or they don't believe it exists for them. And so they're not listening to depression. They're not taking the steps to find their purpose, and they're not pulling themselves out of it. And all you can do is watch them die right in front of your eyes. Painful, painful, painful place to be. And it can make the person who loves you feel depressed too because they feel like their life doesn't have any meaning. Suicidal thoughts and behaviors. You end up deciding the world is just better off without you. But the truth is this. The world is not better off without you. The world needs you. It needs you to step up and find your purpose and step into that purpose so that you can make the change that you were born to make because you are the only person who has the ability to make this particular change in the world. It's true. You were born for this. Everything in your past has been leading you to this point. So handle depression appropriately. Listen to that call. Depression's calling you to find your purpose. Listen to it. Examine your life for clues. In your life, in the stories of your past, are the clues to your purpose. Ask others around you for help in finding it. And do not ask your friends that are depressed. Okay? They can't help you. They don't even know how to help themselves. They can't help you. They're not going to have anything positive to add. They'll believe that what you're doing is pointless. Go out and find somebody who is positive, who is a positive individual and who has a positive belief set, and ask them their honest opinion about what you should be doing with your life. Let them help you find the answer. Okay? Set out immediately on that. Don't waste time. You've already wasted enough. Don't waste time doing what you were born to do. Whatever it is that you feel that you are called to doing, don't waste time. You don't know how much time you have. You may not have it to waste. And serve those around you with it. If you're called to write, start serving people with your writing. If you're called to sing, start serving people with your singing. If you're called, whatever you're called to do. If you're called to lead, find your group, start leading. That's the only way you're going to move forward. Okay? Disappointment. Ah, lovely. We hate disappointment. But we create disappointment. That's right. Disappointment is our baby. We have built it. And how did we build it? Disappointment is the child of false expectations. Disappointment arrives when you set yourself and others up for failure through your false expectations. Disappointment ignored becomes the building block of a wall you build to protect yourself, and it also blocks out love. Disappointment becomes bitterness and anger. You keep getting hurt and you don't know why. Disappointment becomes blame and shame. Nobody lives up to your expectations, not even you. So you blame others for not living up to those expectations, and you blame yourself for failing to live up to them too. Here's the truth about your expectations, okay? You need to toss them. Nobody's ever going to be able to meet them. Why? Because they can't. Those expectations are created in your head. Inside your head, you cast characters. Sure, they may look like the people around you, but they aren't the people around you. They don't think like the people around you. They don't behave like the people around you. They aren't really the people around you. They just look like them. Then you write out this fantastic script for those characters to perform, and you hand it to each of those characters, and you build a setting, and you say what they should do and when they should do it and how they should do it and where they should do it. Notice you're shitting all over people. It's very unattractive. And then you bring all this expectation that you've built, that you've rehearsed in your head over and over and over again, and it doesn't meet your expectations when it's confronted with the reality of who they are and how they actually behave and what they actually say and where they actually do it and how they dress. And you're disappointed and you're angry with them for disappointing you, but it's not their disappointment. It's yours. You created it. So, stop. Stop with the expectations. Okay? Here's how you handle disappointment. You stop shoulding all over yourself. You aren't perfect. Neither is anyone else. Let go of those expectations. Half of them don't even belong to you. They were actually put on you by parents, teachers, relatives, friends, people who had expectations of who you would become and how you would behave, and you've been trying your best to live up to those expectations your whole life, but you can't because they aren't yours and you don't even know what they are. You're never going to meet those expectations. So stop trying, really, seriously. All right, seek to find your true self, not the self you built to meet the expectations of others. Who are you really? That's a question you need to answer. Find out what you want, what you like, what you hope, what you feel, what you believe, what matters to you, and what doesn't. Okay? That is the thing that will give you the most power when you know who that is. Don't set expectations for other people's behavior or how things are to go, what they are to look like, or how they are to be. Accept them as is. You can't really get to know somebody when you hold expectations of who they are. You have to let go of those expectations to be able to enjoy them for who they really are. Okay? Those expectations are getting in the way of you meeting people and loving them. You need to let go of them. They're not serving your purpose. And you need to thank discouragement for alerting you to the existence of those false expectations, because those false expectations were getting in your way. You were so busy trying to dictate the terms and conditions of what things would be and how they would behave and who they would be that you missed out on these people for who they really are. And discouragement alerted you to that fact, or disappointment alerted you to that fact, and thank it. Thank it. It did a great job for you. Now, encourage people to become their best selves. So let go of your expectations so you can encourage them to become who they were really meant to be. All right, discouragement. Let's talk about discouragement. It happens when you've worked really, really, really hard to do something, and it all falls apart. The path you were on totally disappears. You can't figure out a way forward. Everything stops happening. Well, here's why discouragement shows up. Discouragement only shows up when you're on the edge of victory. That's the good news. Discouragement's job is to help remind you of your purpose so that you can lead forward with purpose, move into your passion. But discouragement ignored becomes depression. You've lost sight of your purpose, and you don't know why you're doing this anymore, or why it matters, and you don't feel like doing it anymore. It becomes defeat. You give up because you get tired of trying and failing and trying and failing, because you're focused on the price you have to pay to get where you want to be, rather than the benefit of being where you want to be. And it becomes hopelessness. You believe that nothing will change no matter what you do, and you sit in the ground and you quit. You give up. And you're right. As long as you stay there, nothing is going to change, no matter what you do, because you're not doing anything to change it. Okay? So here's how you handle discouragement. Remind yourself of your purpose. Write it down everywhere you go. Look at it every single day. This is what you're fighting for. This is why it's worth it. This is what makes the journey matter. Okay, get a firm grasp on why this journey matters, not just to you, but to other people. And when you get down and you get discouraged and you're ready to quit, you focus on those other people and the fact that they need you to step up and to step into your role and to take charge and to live your purpose, because that purpose is going to change their lives. You write your purpose. You put it in front of you everywhere you go. Put it on a card. Keep it in your wallet. Look at it regularly, especially when you get discouraged. Renew your resolve to get to where you want to be. It matters to the world that you get where you want to be, because only when you get where you want to be can you make the difference you are meant to make. And seek out support from those who are headed on the same journey, and advice from those who have been where you've headed. Okay? So it's important that you get in the boat with other people who are headed the same direction you're headed. Okay? You can't do this journey isolated and alone. You're going to get squashed. You'll meet obstacles and you'll think you're the only one in the world who's ever faced it. You won't know how to get past those. You'll meet doubt and you'll quit because you think doubt means that you don't have what it takes, when all it really means is that you need more information. Okay? You need people who have been where you want to go, because you have no idea how to get there, but they do. They've been there. They know where they're going. They know how to get you there, and they know how to get you there safely to the other side. So you need to be on a journey with people who are going the same direction you are, who have fought the same battle you're fighting, and you need people behind you too, because that's the people that you're going to be able to share, and that's how you grow your confidence, when you're sharing and you're helping people who are behind where you're at. That's what builds your confidence, when you reach out and you help somebody pull somebody a little bit ahead. Okay? That's how you overcome doubt, helping the people behind you. Doubt, the faithful companion. Doubt will always be with you. You will always have a niggling of doubt, and that's good news, because doubt keeps you collecting information. Doubt keeps you outside of your comfort zone. Doubt means that you're stretching and growing, and you don't know for sure what's up ahead. If you know for sure what's up ahead, it's because you've already been there. But you don't need to stay where you've already been. You need to move forward. So doubt's always going to be with you. Just know what it is and know what it needs. Okay? And if you feed doubt what it needs, it will grow into confidence, and you'll be able to move forward with confidence. Doubt ignored becomes feared. You start being afraid of what's ahead because you don't know if you have what it takes to meet the challenges. So stop becomes powerlessness. You hold back from claiming your power, and you stay rooted where you are because you're afraid of what's ahead. And then defeat. You give up because you don't believe you can. You're not providing yourself the evidence that you can do it. And that's what you need, is evidence, proof. You need verification that you really can do this. Okay? So handle doubt appropriately. You put your work in front of others who are on the same journey you are. Remember those people behind you on the journey? Those are the people you need to put your work in front of, and you need to let them test it for you so that you can help them and they help you. You accept all feedback on it, whether negative or positive. Change what needs to be changed. Some of that feedback is just going to be a reflection of the person who gave it to you, okay? Some people are just not going to be willing to try because they're too afraid to fail. That's not you. That's them. Don't let it hold you back. But some people are going to tell you, oh, I didn't like this aspect of it, or maybe we're going too fast. Listen to those people. They're not trying to hurt you. They're trying to make your product better. They're trying to make you better. So listen to those. Take what advice you need out of it. Every piece of advice, every piece of feedback is a gift. Most people are never going to give you feedback. those people that do actually care, either about you or about what you've done. Accept what they've given you as a gift. Maybe a crappy gift, but, maybe that's the best they have to offer. Don't hold it against them. They're doing the best they can. It may be a great gift. It may be encouragement. It may be exactly what you need to hear that day. And in that case, accept it with love and cherish it. Hold on to that. Take it with you wherever you go. Okay? Keep testing until you're confident you have it right. Okay? That is the truth about moving forward. And that's how you handle negative emotions. In general, listen to the negative emotion. It has something to tell you. Okay? It's there for a reason. Negative emotions exist for a reason. They're not there to hurt you. They're actually there to help you. You need to figure out what they've got going. So, change the story by changing your perspective. You want permanent change, you have to change the stories you're telling. And we all have stories we tell ourselves about who we are. How often do you say to yourself, I'm worthless, I'm nothing, I'm nobody, I'm not important? About why we are the way we are now. Maybe you say to yourself, well, if only that person would have, or if only this person would, or if only I could, then I would. Well, that's not true. None of that's true. Okay? But that's a story you're telling yourself, and that's keeping you comfortable, but it's not helping you. So change that story. All right, about how life works. Life has no meaning. Life has no purpose. Life is an accident. Well, that really inspires. Yeah, that's a great story to tell yourself. About what to expect from other people. This one is tough. We all have those things, right? You expect to get hurt. And you think that's a bad thing. But the truth is, pain is the price we pay to love. But love is what makes life worth living. So, yeah. Or maybe you don't expect to get hurt. Maybe you expect that every relationship should feel good. And that's a poor expectation, because I guarantee you it's not always going to feel good. And just because it doesn't feel good doesn't mean it's not a good relationship. It means something needs to change. Okay? What to expect from our relationships? Do we expect them to fail? Or do we expect that commitment is part of them? About what we're good at and what we're not good at. I used to have this story I told myself, I'm not good at math. Now I know that's not true. That was just a story I was telling myself because I didn't want to face disappointment and failure. About what we can do and what we can't do. I let that story about math tell me that I couldn't become an architect. I actually did. I wanted to become an architect. I wanted to build things. But I told myself I couldn't do that because I wasn't good at math. See, those two stories become related. All these stories become related to one another. And they fuse themselves into your identity, who you believe you are, and what you believe you are or are not capable of doing. And where we belong and where we don't. You belong. You belong to a place. There is a place that is meant for you. But in order to find that place, you have to stay long, be long in that place. That's the truth about belonging. But these stories we tell, they come from our past experiences in life. The story about who you are, what you believe to be true about yourself, determines how you behave. If you believe, as I mentioned earlier, that you are worthless, you will not see that you have anything to give, so you won't give anything. You won't believe you can do anything worthwhile, so you'll stop when you hit your first failure, because you see it as proof that you were right. See, I can't do anything. You'll reject any evidence you acquire that shows you to be worth something as invalid or a fluke, an accident. And see, to attempt to change without first changing the story that drives the belief will not work. Permanent change will only come when you find the stories that are driving the negative belief and rewrite them into positive stories of empowerment. Why are you like this? Accept full responsibility for every choice and decision you've made that brought you to this point in your life. Blaming someone else for it leaves them in control of your life and your future. So reject the temptation to blame. And it is tempting because it's easier, but it's not better. You did not always have control over the situation, but you have always had 100% control over how you respond to it. You can't control other people. You can't control every event, but you can always control what you choose to do about it in response to that event. Forgive yourself for your past, okay? Forgive yourself for poor choices and mistakes. We all make them. We all make poor choices. We all make mistakes. We all have failures. Forgive yourself for being human and go ahead and make the change that needs to happen so you don't have to repeat that over and over again. Resolve to rewrite the story so that you can have a new outcome. Okay, if you failed and you want to go back, re-examine that failure, that moment when you didn't live up to your expectations and you failed. Well, what can you learn from it? If you can learn something from it, you're not a failure, you're a learner. Congratulations, you have transformed the story. Confront your past. Don't run from it. This is the hardest lesson to learn. Your past holds the keys to your future, holds the keys to your self-confidence. You will never be able to step into your purpose and your power and your passion until you go back, dig through the past, and find the situation that led you to believe the things you believe are true, and change that story. You've been allowing your past to control your present and dictate your future. It is time to put yourself back in the driver's seat. Remember, stories that you're telling are coming from age 5 and age 12. Do you really want a 5 and a 12-year-old driving your car? Do you want a 5 and a 12-year-old making life decisions about which career to take or which promotion to turn down? Do you want a 5 or a 12-year-old to make decisions about where you're going to live and how you're going to live? I don't think so. You know as well as I do that that 5-year-old did not have the life experience needed to make a good decision. They didn't know better, but you do. So go back to the story that started it all, find it, and rewrite it. That's how you start taking control of your future. Your past does hold the keys to the future, and you must find those past stories. Okay? So look for the past wounds that you bear from people who hurt you or disappointed you. Look for the weaknesses in your character that you've been beating yourself up over. Let's say that you're like me, and you've put on a few pounds that you didn't need, and you have this temptation for sweets and for sodas and things like that, and you don't even know where that comes from. And you've tried programs to break you of that habit. You've even gone for a year without soda just to help yourself out, and you went right back to it. Why? Ask yourself why. What is driving that story that you tell yourself about who you are and about what you need and about what you want and about what you crave? Okay? The failures you've experienced that have caused you to give up and quit, the relationships that didn't work out, the experiences where you felt embarrassed or ashamed, the times you faced rejection and personal loss. Go find those stories. Diving into your past is the only way to retrieve the keys to your future and turn those negatives into positives. This is the truth about each of those moments. Those wounds you received, those allow you to help other people heal. Right, that's right. You having gotten past that pain means you can now help somebody else get past their pain. You can also help somebody prevent getting hurt in the first place because you know what you did that got yourself there. Your weaknesses, those are strengths that make you approachable and human to those you might help. So admit them, own them. Start a group over them. Every failure carries a lesson if you back and find it, a positive lesson that you can bring forward into the future. The relationships that didn't work out, they taught you. What do you want in a relationship? What do you need in a relationship? What weren't you getting that made that relationship not work? Okay? Feeling embarrassment and shame, that allows you to understand the shame and the struggle of others so you can increase the amount of compassion you have on people who aren't where you're at. Rejection, that's a detour sign. It just leads you to a better road, a better place, a better person. Don't take that rejection personally. It wasn't. Change what you need to change and go meet the better person that's waiting for you, the better place that's waiting for you, the better job that's waiting for you. The losses you've experienced, like the wounds you carry, give you a powerful message of hope to bring to others that there is life after loss, because there is life after loss. I lost my father. It was painful. It was actually pretty horrible the way he died. I mean, his wife killed him. Locked him in a room with no food, no water. Ripped the phones out of the wall so he couldn't make a call to get help. That's a pretty terrible way to die. And that loss hurt my heart. But because of that loss, now I can talk to other people who have gone through the same thing. And I can warn them about the things that led up to that. The warning signs that we didn't take as seriously as maybe we should have. I can write about that, and I can change that story, and I can make sure that my father's life is preserved in my writing. Okay? Those things wouldn't have happened without the loss. Those who are meant to be leaders, and that's you and me, are put into a crucible at a very early age to strengthen them and prepare them for the rigors of the task that is being set before them. Life and the world knows what you're headed for long before you do. All those negative things that have happened in your background, you thought they were pushing you down and pummeling you into the ground and telling you that you're worthless, but they're not. They're actually signs that you were being prepared for a greater future, a greater destiny, and that it is time for you to step up into that and claim your superpower. And yes, you do have one. Your story is your superpower. Dun, dun, dun. You have the ability to change hearts, minds, and lives with your story. Your story can help someone else who is struggling with the same pain you did. Your story can help someone who is hiding those same weaknesses you are afraid to show them because they think that will make them less lovable, and they don't realize that those weaknesses are actually part of what make them lovable. You are able to help someone who's feeling defeated by the same failures you are. You can tell them it isn't the end. Just because you failed doesn't mean it's over. Your story can help someone whose relationship just ended and they need healing. Well, guess what? You're there. You can tell them about yours and how you got better and how the next relationship was better because the last one failed. Your story can help someone else who feels embarrassed or ashamed because of what happened to them. And you can help them get past that shame and that guilt. And your story can help someone who's dealing with loss or rejection. I mean, nobody knows grieving like somebody who's grieved. Nobody knows the loss of a spouse like somebody who's lost one. Nobody knows the loss of a parent like somebody who's lost one. You can make a tremendous difference in someone else's life just by sharing your story. And remember what I told you at the beginning. It only takes changing one life for the better to change the entire course of human history for the better. Don't underestimate that power of one. So, here is your challenge. I want you to send me an email. The first thing I want you to do is to list off the numbers that I gave you. I hope you remember them. Okay? Then I want you to spend 10 minutes in a quiet space all by yourself. I want you to write the statement, I am, at the top of the page. I want you to tell me the memory in as much detail as possible of the story that comes to mind from that statement. When is the first time you felt that you were that story? What is the story that goes with that statement? Let me know what you got out of this webinar, what you thought you would get, and whether you would recommend it to a friend. And those who complete this assignment will in fact get a reward, and it can be emailed to 40daywriter, 40daywriter @gmail.com. So if you write that to me, I will have an award for you. That's right, a small reward. My offer. Here's my offer. Okay? If you're ready to work on finding your keys to claiming your superpowers, I'm introducing the Zero to Hero program. It's 5 weeks. We'll work through the stories you're telling yourself now. You get one-on-one help rewriting those stories to find the positive in them. Once a week coaching calls to help you keep track of your journey. I'll hold you accountable for progress, and we'll chart the changes as they happen to you. A private Facebook mastermind group for those who want to share your struggles, your daily progress, and your accomplishments so you can get support, feedback, and encouragement. And assistance and support in finding ways to use your story to reach more people so you can benefit more lives than just yours. Now, this is a beta program. What that means is that this program is a program in testing stage. I am confident in it enough to offer it to you for money, but I don't have all the feedback I need to be sure it's as powerful and effective as I want it to be, and that's why you're getting this at a very, very discounted price. Seats are limited to the first 20 people who enroll. The cost is just $100 a person, and yes, that includes all workbooks and supplies. Okay, so everything you need will be provided to you along the way. And if you're interested in that, send your interest in the email with your homework assignment, and I will give you the information you need so you can arrange payment. I thank you for the time you've spent listening to this webinar. I hope it has been beneficial to you. I hope you've enjoyed it. And if you like it and you feel it would help somebody else, I want to encourage you to share it. First of all, like this particular webinar, you know, in your YouTube thing, and then share it out to somebody that you feel could use it. Make sure you share it on Facebook, on Twitter, wherever you're at. Benefit somebody else, because trust me when I tell you, there are not enough positive voices out there in the world. You sharing this could make the difference, all the difference that somebody else needs made in their life, just by hitting a share. Thank you so much for listening and watching, and I hope you have a beautiful day. And remember, you are powerful. You are worth so much more than you give yourself credit for being worth. Don't ever let that be taken from you. Have a great day. And if you have any questions, just wrapping it up real quick. If you have any questions, things that I didn't go over that you would like gone over, or topics that you wanted to know more about, or if you got confused or lost, or if you want to know how I know things, or if you're wondering how a particular topic applies to your situation, or if you'd like an example, or if you want to express your thoughts about this particular webinar, please send those to everydaywriter@gmail.com. Look, asking questions doesn't mean you're dumb or you're slow. What it does mean is that you're smart enough to recognize that you didn't understand or that you need more information. There are plenty of times where I think I've explained something perfectly well, and I haven't. I've left out steps because I take for granted the things that I know, but you don't have to. So, with that, thank you for watching, and you have a great day.